Well, greetings, viewers and voyeurs. You're with gothatfunk, and this is a video response to my friend LatumWay and his video Anti-American Americans, or American Anti-Americanism. Sorry, one or the other. Anyway, his video was a response, or not really a response, but more of a reaction to Godlesshayes' video American Embarrassment, and also the videos by paulsEgo and The Amazing Atheist on the same subject. Okay. Now, if you haven't seen those videos, I strongly recommend watching them. I know it would take about an hour to do so, but it's well worth it. And if you haven't seen them, some of the things I'm going to say might seem a bit lost or whatever. Anyway, they'll all be linked in the description box in my britches. So anyway, anti-American Americans. Do they exist? I'm not so sure, man. I don't really think complaining about America is anti-American. If you're American, anyway. I think it's patriotic and certainly can be. Not always, of course, but it certainly can be. And I like to think of my own complaints on that sort of level because I'll tell you what, man. I am old enough to remember a time when most Americans would never condone torture under any circumstances. And in the past few years, I've seen literally dozens, maybe even hundreds of Americans, real people, not politicians with an agenda, but real Americans on LiveJournal, on MySpace, and more recently on YouTube, condoning torture. Or, you know, maybe not condoning it outright, but allowing for it, which is as good as condoning it, in my opinion. Now, torture, like slavery or rape, to me, is an indefensible thing. There can never be a good reason to torture someone. It can never be justified to torture someone. That's my opinion. And once upon a time, within my fucking lifetime, hell, within the past 20 years, that was the majority opinion. It may still be the majority opinion, but I'll tell you what, that margin has closed an awful lot in the past couple of years. You know, I'm a big sort of anti-nuclear weapons guy. I don't speak about it as much on YouTube as I used to when I was younger. But in recent years, again on LiveJournal and on YouTube, I have seen people, Americans, saying outright that they think that there could be circumstances which it would be okay to use nuclear weapons either on the battlefield or as a first strike weapon to prevent an attack. Nuclear weapons as a first strike weapon was completely against the zeitgeist for the majority of my life. Only an extremist would say such things. The same with torture. Only an extremist would justify or, try to justify torture in the 80s. That recently. So, in the past 20, 30 years, things have really gone from, a country which, yes, had problems, but was, working through them, trying to address them, and incremental changes like The Amazing Atheist were, in general, in a positive arc. Okay? But whether you want to draw the line at the Patriot Act or September 11th or sometime before that or wherever you personally might want to draw your line and say America has started to flush the Bill of Rights down the toilet, the bottom line is, man, the Bill of Rights is being flushed down the toilet right in front of our fucking eyes, right in our faces. They're almost literally rubbing our noses in it right now. Now, Jacob, you might think that I'm the product of brainwashing through the American educational system, and maybe there's some merit to that kind of thing, because I'll tell you what, man, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in general, as well as the Declaration of Independence, I personally hold as sacred documents, okay? Those documents are what America is to me. From my point of view as an American, America is the founding principles, then it's the people, then it's the government. Okay, when I think of America, that's what I think of. I think of the principles we're founded on. Then I think of the people that make up the country. Then I think of the government, which is basically how it interacts with the wider world and also with the people itself. Anyway, so I see the Bill of Rights as, incomplete and imperfect, but the very best of its kind anywhere in the world. It's certainly, in my opinion, the most important document ever written in English as its first language. And the Bill of Rights, for me as an American, represents the bare minimum I'm supposed to expect from a free society. It's not the summit of our rights. It's the minimum of our rights. And right now, and for the past 10 years or more, my government has been jumping up and down and pissing on the fucking Bill of Rights, man. The Patriot Act more or less shreds like 7 of the amendments outright. You know, these TSA body scanners and the frisking that goes on at airports right now is a complete, direct, blatant violation of the 4th Amendment. And they're getting away with it in broad daylight. It's on the fucking news, and people are fucking rolling over for it. That's why I was so glad that paulsEgo mentioned in his video about it, because you know what? The fact that people are just going, hey, well, you know, if it keeps us safe, then it's okay. That's why we're fucking shamed, man. I mean, I'm not ashamed of America, but anyone with that attitude, I'm like, dude, don't you fucking know what freedom is? Don't you know what your rights are? Don't those rights matter enough to you for you to stand up for them? When I see my people rolling over and saying, oh, well, you know, the government's in control because they know what's best, I want to fucking puke. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm not ashamed about it. I want to do something about it. I want to change it. I cannot tell you how many times over the past 10 or 15 years that I felt guilty about living abroad, because I honestly feel that if I was back in America, I would be doing something more constructive to try to change this shit. You know, all I can do from this distance is vote and bitch about things on the internet, and that's about it, which isn't much. That's not even as good as pissing in the wind, but it's all I can do at the moment. I've actually given a lot of thought to moving back home to become an activist because these issues matter to me. But because I bitch about the TSA body scanners and the frisking, and because I bitch about the fact that my gay friends and my lesbian friends can't get married, and because I bitch about the fact that the culture war is ripping my country to shreds, doesn't mean I'm anti-American. Quite the contrary. The Declaration of Independence makes it perfectly clear. If the government is turning tyrannical, it is your duty to either try to change it or to overthrow it. Well, I don't want to see a revolution in my country. I would rather see evolution in my country. I want to see the country evolve through the mechanisms that have been put in place for democratic accountability. But when the political system is so blatantly corrupt and getting worse, and when that is in tandem with them taking away my rights, your rights, and everyone else's fucking rights, one at a time, bit by bit. Yes, I have a right to be concerned. Yes, I should be fucking complaining about it. And frankly, I should be complaining about everyone who's not complaining about it as well. Because acquiescence is the fucking cancer of our fucking society in America. The fact that so many people go along to get along is enough to make me fucking puke. You know, I have no basic political sympathy with Tea Party people whatsoever, but I did admire the fact that, like, sort of people who would never normally call themselves activists actually got off their ass and got motivated and demonstrated and, you know, took an interest in what was going on. And I want to see more of that from my country. You know, in 2003, Jacob, I was one of the people in London that marched in February against the war. It was about a month before the war happened. There was about 2 million people on the street that day, and there was actually less crime and criminal activity in London that day than there was on a normal Saturday, which I found quite amusing. Anyway, prior to that march, my wife at the time was questioning whether I should bother going. And she said, you know, Paul, these demonstration marches never make a fucking difference. And I don't agree, frankly. I think that that attitude guarantees that they won't make a difference, for one thing. And, okay, marches don't have a great history in the UK of making much of a difference. I mean, there are exceptions to that. And you might say the same thing about the United States of America. But you can't tell that to people from South Africa, Romania, Germany, Hungary, Poland. Come on. Marching, making a stand, standing up for your rights, saying, no, we will not be oppressed, is your fucking responsibility. And if everyone does it, it can make a difference. It will make a difference. And I honestly believe that the glue that holds my country together and will ultimately save us from the fucking problems we face is a love of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Because it's the one thing that leftists like me and people on the right-hand side of the spectrum, like, say, the Reprieve or Eagle Eye 1975, those guys are pretty far to the right from me, but we all love the Constitution, man. And the Constitution is the glue that is going to bring our country together. It's the only thing that can hold our country together, is the love of the Constitution and a restoration of the rights that are guaranteed to us in the Bill of Rights, which I want to say again, are the minimum we should expect, not the maximum to aspire to. Anyway, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. It's not a shame of America or embarrassment about America that I personally feel. It's a concern for America and a recognition that my country is no better than any other country, which means that if we're not vigilant, we can slide into a situation possibly beyond a point of no return where, the rights that I grew up and enjoyed, my grandchildren will never know. And I don't want that to happen. This is gothatfunk. I want to thank you all for listening to this long diatribe. Until next time, may all your ups and downs be ups.